And welcome to this episode of OneMicNite Talk, the podcast that inspires you with real talk in your daily lives. My name is Marcos Luis, and my co-host Stephen Anthony Beasley is not here with me today, but we are jumping on the headlines because we have something to talk about. My guest today, you already know him. He's been on season 2, episode 15 of OneMicNite Talk, where we spoke with co-host Ashley Elizabeth Green and Liz Menezes about COVID and his new book. But today we're here to talk about the headlines. First of all, I want to do a little check-in because I want to welcome him first. Let me back up. Welcome him. Welcome, Shane Mark Tull, clinical psychologist.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming back. You're like the resident psychotherapist now, so yes, I appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Anytime.
I want to do a little check-in because we are now back in a resurge of COVID, and people are feeling a certain way. I just read a report today that long COVID is having a huge effect on people. Symptoms ranging from respiratory to neurological fatigue, chronic pain, and people are afraid of getting COVID again. The numbers are rising here in New York. What do we do?
It's really overwhelming. We feel like we were coming out of this ditch, and within the last month, the cases that are arriving, that are escalating, is just not just COVID, is the new respiratory virus, as well as the flu. So we have this trifecta going on here, and we really, unfortunately, we really have to go back to practicing good public health policy. Like we really have to go back to wearing a mask and washing our hands and keeping our distance. And I know no one wants to go back to that, and I think the government is looking at this from probably a political aspect, like, oh, to tell people to go back, it's like going backwards, it's going to look bad. But really, that's the only way we can survive this, is by practicing good public health policy, by distancing, washing our hands, wearing a mask, avoiding crowds, and getting tested.
Absolutely. Getting tested. There's still free tests out there. I mean, I know for a fact you can get some at the public library here in New York.
They've sent them to our homes. Get tested, get your vaccines, get your flu shot, get your booster, get everything you can have to protect yourselves, especially if you have a pre-existing condition.
Absolutely. And I know just in my own personal life, it took me a while, but I finally got my COVID booster shot. I feel a lot better, knowing that I have that sort of protection. I don't know of any underlying conditions that I have, but it doesn't matter. For me, the important thing is that I protect myself to the fullest, and then I protect the other people around me to the fullest too. So it's not just my own personal interest; it's the masses.
Yes, it is the masses. I'm here in Atlanta. I came to visit my 90-year-old mom. I have to be vaccinated. So if I didn't want to do it for myself, that's reason enough to do it. And we need to go and get vaccinated, get boosters, get the flu shot. All of these things collectively helps us to fight the COVID virus. It's not that we may not get COVID, but if we do, we will not end up in a hospital or worse. So Absolutely. We need to protect ourselves. It's important to do.
What do you say to those naysayers who think that it's still all a joke? I know in Florida, the governor, Ron DeSantis, he's filing a case against the COVID vaccination companies.
Yeah.
What do you say? I mean, is it?
He just got to look at the numbers, and we have to be responsible. We cannot allow politicians to set public policy, Absolutely. Public health policy. We have to do our own research and listen to the medical experts. I keep telling people that this COVID vaccination is the first vaccination that had such a cross section of people of color in the trials. A lot of the doctors that facilitated the trial were people of color. That's why the vaccine is so effective, broad-based, because when you participate, it helps them to come up with the DNA or whatever it is they need to come up with to match yours or people in your category. And that helps us. One of the reasons that vaccines don't always work for us is a lot of us do not participate in trials. It is important for us to participate in trials for HIV, for cancer, for every other thing, because we are all being affected by these things. And if we don't participate in the trials, the outcome will not be in our favor.
Absolutely. However, we were being part of the trial. We as people of color are still part of the ones who are skeptical based on previous experiences.
And
How do
those
we prevent?
experiences are valid. You cannot negate the reality of those experiences. But I think today we have more information. There are more people that look like you and I when you go to the hospital, doctors that look like you and I that continuously fight against that stigma and the whole doubt. And I think our doubt is reality based, but we also have
Definitely.
to be reality based in terms of looking at the facts that we have in front of us and not listening to politicians, but really listening to your healthcare professional, having conversations with your pharmacist, your your nurse, your doctors, your community health spaces. Go there, get material, ask questions. We have to educate ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's definitely, an individual situation because everyone's body reacts differently. So it's important that you find out what your body is doing and how your body will react to, the vaccination. It's important. It's your job.
It is. It is. Your the way we practice our public health and our personal health affects everyone around us. But I also want us to look at the mental health aspect of this that we have been through this pandemic and so many things have happened post pandemic, if we could say that. We have the long haul syndrome. We have people that are battling neurological issues, psychological issues, where people are depressed. So we also need to address mental health in this space, which is mental health is health.
Absolutely.
We
Now, this,
must address that.
we absolutely must. Now, in this past week, just ripped from the headlines, we had a huge event that happened here in the US with diplomacy. Um, WNBA star Brittney Griner was traded back to the US after she was in prison for 10 months on drug smuggling, hashish oil through vapors through the airport in Russia, where she was playing basketball. So she was stopped and taken to trial and convicted, sentenced to a possibility of sentence to 10 years in prison, but in turn got 9 years in prison. I think she subsequently spent 10 months in prison. But our government negotiated her release in trade for an international killer known as the Merchant of Death. Now, a lot of people are up in arms about it. It's been the conversation for, I think, about a week now. I don't want to go too much into that, but I'm more interested in her return back to the United States, what her conditions were like when she was there, and how she's going to reintegrate herself into society. That's a traumatic experience. She was in a top-notch Russian jail, one of the most, notoriously
Mm-hmm.
known horrible places to be in the world.
Correct. I mean, I really think that any day an American comes home is a good day.
Agreed.
I believe that Russia used this to their advantage, and I think they got the outcome they wanted because I believe the undertone of this is racism. The undertone of this is homophobia. Because you see the Republicans, but they're saying, "Oh, you traded a black gay woman for, and you could bring home Paul Wheeler." Paul Wheeler was never a part of the deal, even though the policies were diplomacy was pushing for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what they got, and I think Putin really won this because he created this circus of commentary in our democracy that once again threatens to divide us.
Yes. Yes.
So I really think we need to be conscious of that, but more so personally, just the experience that she's been through is extremely traumatic. And it was experienced at a very global stage because of who she is, she's very high profile. But just think of the fear of never coming home.
Yeah.
This was a miracle.
It really is.
This is a miracle that
It really
she
is.
made it. That she made it out, and I really think there's going to be a lot of need for support and therapy and just helping her to reintegrate into society. Because 10 months is a lot of time.
That's a lot of time.
In this day and age, like technology moves and changes so rapidly, being out of the loop for that amount of time can feel like 10 years. So just her being able to reintegrate into societies will be a challenge, not just for her, but for her family, because she will never be the same.
Absolutely. Again. I want to echo a little bit of what you said. 10 months is a long time, especially compounded with the fact that, one, when they deliver the sentence, first of all, the fear that you have even being there, and going to court, knowing the judicial system there, knowing that you're guilty of a charge, whether it's a charge, that you could get away with here in the United States, but being there, you're guilty, knowing that you may never get out for 9 years, knowing that what you said before, that you are an athlete, you're from the United States, you're gay, you're a Black woman, all these different situations, and knowing how, Russia feels about gay people, Black people. That's a lot. And then you're transferred, and one more, that you're 7 feet tall, so nothing in there is equipped to handle you.
Yes.
So you already
space.
Assume, the space. Yeah. Assume the whole nother position about yourself in the way you're there. That's traumatic. For that one day, that's traumatic.
Yes. It's extremely traumatic. And just being, and the fact it played out on such a global stage does not help. Did not help. So just she will need a lot. She needs a lot of support. I'm glad that she decided to stay in the Army base and be reintegrated gently, slowly, getting back with her family. This is going to take some time. It really will take some time. I think that the fact that this has raised her profile and she has a new voice to speak about Americans that are detained in other countries. So, and I think this would probably be one of her projects to talk about and participate in these kind of diplomacy and getting Americans home, because it was my father sometimes says this. It's fortunate when an unfortunate thing happens.
Absolutely.
This is an unfortunate thing, but because of who she is and what she brings to society, it was polarized, it was publicized. It would be beneficial for her to use that to continue talking about Americans that are detained in other countries, and continue to push that diplomacy and dialogue and support for those families that their loved ones can come home to. Because not everyone family was made whole. And I think, especially in this festive season, it is not the most happy. It's not the most happiest time of the year for everyone.
Right.
This could be very, very traumatic for people that are away from their families. I can't begin to think what Paul Williams' family is going through. Approaching Christmas, not being here, really don't have an idea of if he's going to come out, if you're going to get him back. So I think we ought to be conscious of that as we celebrate our good fortunes. That there are people out there that are not, is not going to celebrate, or
Not
not in
celebrating.
that, as not in that space to do so.
Right.
And so we want to be gracious. And if you know somebody going through something, reach out to them. If somebody had a loss in the middle of the year, this is the first probably Christmas without their loved one, reach out to them. Send them a card, give them a call, invite them out for a cup of tea. Maybe not invite them to a party because they may not be in a festive mood,
Right.
but just to connect with them and let them know that, hey, I'm here for you.
Absolutely. Whether they accept the invitation or not, it's the thought that, actually the thought that counts, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a
Correct.
thought that counts. I want to go back to kind of in general and with Brittney Griner. So with the fame that she has, and as you said, using it, to speak out, is that a form of therapy for her? Is it therapeutic for her or
It could be. It really could be. It's like taking the worst thing that happened to you and make this your life work and make this your passion. I'm gonna use this to do the work that I need to do so someone else will not experience this.
what are the type of things, if would a prisoner need or would someone need who's coming out of a place of incarceration and isolation from society? What kind of things do they need? What kind of tools do they need to help them integrate?
Lots of compassion,
Mhm.
lots of compassion, lots of support, some structure, and really holding space for them to share their experiences when they're ready and share the burden of that experience and the burden, the guilt, shame, uh, they just being away from their families. Can think of fathers being away from their children for the last 10 months or the last 10 years. For a child, a parent being away for 10 months will feel like 10 years.
Yeah.
So, and he has to reintegrate not just into society, but into that family, into that space, reconnected with the partner. All of those things takes a lot, and you're never the same. So you're not that person that 10 months ago that you were. After such an experience,
You're right.
everything is different.
Yeah. I would imagine, being in a space like that where you have to follow orders, strict orders, you tend to lose your sense of personality.
Mm-hmm.
There becomes sort of a maybe even like a numbness about your expressions and the
Mm-hmm.
way you feel. You used to sort of close off
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
your feelings. Yeah, it's something that you have to relearn all over again.
indeed. And coming out in society, for a lot of prisoners that are reintegrated into society, they have this sense of hypervigilance that something is going to happen.
Yes.
So they're always going to like something moves a different way. Because when you're in prison, your goal is to protect yourself, protect your space. Coming out into the real world, that will really, for example, I don't know if you noticed when all the places started to open up after COVID, people were fighting, they were getting into accidents, they were very aggressive because they were locked up for a while. They were detained, they were contained,
Right.
and then we just opened it up. And so people were just wild going out there. But they needed time for their sensibilities and their psyche to be reintegrated to to the mass movement of people. Think of what Grand Central looked like on March 8th, or let's say March 15th of 2020,
Right.
and think of what it looked like 2 years later. At
Yes.
8 o'clock in the morning, walking through there.
Right.
That can be a very nerve wracking experience.
Right. That's a good analogy. That's a great analogy. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So, reintegrating the backbone, it takes a lot of time, it takes compassion, and really takes understanding trauma. And trauma is real. It's like mental health. It's like trauma is a real thing that is not tangible. You can't feel it, taste it, but it's real. and
Absolutely.
how you support someone getting through that trauma. And people say getting over the trauma, you never get over the trauma. You have to get through it.
Right. It's
Trying to
always
get
there.
over it will stall you. That
Yeah. It's
it's
always
like
there.
grief. It's like grief. It takes time.
How do we find tranquility right now? The holidays are coming, like you mentioned. What do we do? Where we go for peace? These are trying times.
These are trying times, but I also believe these are hopeful times as well. That I would like to think. I think I said this on the last time we spoke. That I would like to believe that what happened during COVID and after COVID, how we represented and stand up for each other and hold space for each other. I would like that to be the bigger picture of humanity than what COVID did to us. So really it's about us being human and just giving yourself the grace to be angry, to be sad, to be disappointed, but also recognizing that there's hope.
Absolutely. And I have to agree with what you said. It's about making connection, and which is what I do during the holidays because it seems like we have a little bit more time. A lot of people are off work. If you're working
Mm,
and you reach out and you connect with the people that you haven't had time to reach out to throughout the course of the year or throughout on a regular basis, and make that connection. And that's what
and
fulfills you.
and I mean one of the things I do regularly, like I was in Walgreens today and I'm waiting to pick up some medication. And I walked to the car section and I saw some stuff of encouragement and thinking of you. And I think of people that I know, and you just buy a card and send it to that person.
Right.
That's powerful.
It is
Because it
powerful.
tell that person that you took time out. You could have sent them a text with the same words or some gaff or gift, and it would have been the same thing. But the fact that you took that time to get the card, write it up, send it out, that means a lot. And those are little things that really impress people because it tells them that this person was thinking of and my well.
I love that.
So, tip for the holidays: buy
Yes.
some little thank you cards or just thinking of you and send it out.
Well, Shane Mark Tull, author of The Mental Health Pandemic. How's the book doing?
The book is doing well. I was in London and Amsterdam and Paris a week ago, and it's doing well. I'm working on my second one. Discovered out soon it's going to be about childhood trauma. So which we have a lot to talk about.
I
So I
love
really
it.
want us to continue the conversation around mental health, and I think it would behoove us. I think we should talk about the headline for today about the guy that's the DJ, the guy that's he was the DJ for Helen DeGeneres. I
Yes.
woke up, yes, I woke up this morning
Twitch.
and Twitch
Mm-hmm.
to a fury of emails. My phone was going off all the time. Like, what the hell is going on? My mailbox is full. People are like, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. This is important.
Why do
Black
you
men are
think,
dying in silence.
right? Why do you think there's such a connection to this guy? Because, he's been on the scene. We know him from a lot of things. We know him from the dance shows. We know him
Mm-hmm,
from Ellen's. We're so invested in him.
mm-hmm,
Um, and I mean, he was already a star, but he was a rising star. He had so much more to go in life. Young
mm-hmm,
man, 40 years old, you know,
mm-hmm.
what kind of, I mean, it's obvious to us because we see it on our timelines, but what kind of impact does the fact that a 40-year-old Black man who was, had huge potential passing away? I'm not sure if we know what the cause is yet, but, just what impact does that have on society? We see the flurry of posts already.
Yeah, because he looks like you and I. And I was telling my niece earlier, it literally breaks my heart every time I see something like this.
Yeah.
And a lot of black men are dying in silence, and we're not talking about it. And you know, the literature shares that when someone dies by suicide, we need to concentrate. We spend time dealing on the prevention of suicide. But this is an opportunity to talk about the prevention of suicide. And I
Absolutely.
really want to impress people that when someone dies from suicide, they do not want to die. They don't want to kill themselves. They just want the pain to stop.
Yeah.
It's the method they use to stop that pain results in your death. And it's this phenomenon that we cannot predict, that because we believe when someone is crying and very depressed, can't get out of bed, that's when we're most concerned about them. When someone is in that state, they are too weak to execute the plan, but they're planning it. When they're up and they're about and they're working and back at work and everybody think, okay, they've got over that crisis, that's when. And the reality is we forget that this person 6 months ago was going through a hard time. And we celebrate 6 months later they're doing well. That's why every time someone dies by suicide in our community, we're all left gasping for air.
Right.
Because it's shocking.
It is shocking. It has
It
a
is
huge
shocking.
effect on the people that are left behind,
Yes.
and it sends them into a whirlwind
Yes.
of depression and emotions and,
Yeah. And guilt.
guilt.
And
Yeah.
guilt. But the reality is, in my personal, in my private, personal, private, professional experience, this is a sad truth. If someone is committed to executing that act, they're going to do it. There's nothing we can do to stop them. The goal is to see how we can help them before they get there. But one of the things about mental health, when someone is experiencing a mental health crisis in this way, their goal is to let everybody see how well they're doing, not how poorly they're doing. So they expend a lot of energy into showing up, presenting well, and doing everything normal. So no one suspects, no one knows, and then this happens. So that's why we're all left with this like panting together. Like, what happened? How did we miss this? And but it also tells us this is possible for us, for any one of us, because we never know where that break happens. So I really want us to have these conversations among Black men to keep to create a safe space for them that you can show up here and you can talk and you will get support. You will be validated. We'll get you the help that you need because too many of us are dying in silence and it just truly destroys me. If every time I see that.
I would have to say, I feel like that's the way of the world right now, at least here in the United States. Everybody's about show. Everybody's about show, when in fact, they're losing the human connection that we need in order to survive. Everyone wants to present. The motivation is to present. I have this, I look like this, or I'm this,
Yes.
and when inside you're really searching for love, like you said, compassion, connection, and all the things that bind you to the human experience, and you're actually doing the opposite. You're showing
Yes.
it's hard.
We tend to present and glorify
Mm-hmm.
all the things that we want on the outer that we lack in our inner spirit. So
And it's been said
it
so many times,
yes.
when it's all gone, what do you have? Who do you have beside you? When the money's gone, when the fame's gone, who do you have beside you? And that's what counts.
That's what matters. So we have to remember what matters is our humanhood, our personhood, not the priorities we set for ourselves and what we. And there's nothing wrong with accomplishment.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with being ambitious, but we also need to recognize when we need help and seek that help. But we also have to be vigilant. We have to be our brother's keepers. We have to recognize when you know someone very well, and within the last 2-3 months, they have this completely different presentation. They're pissing everyone off. They're in constant argument. They're just not who you know them to be. And we tend to say, oh, they're going through a rough time, or I can't deal with them. Sometimes you just have to sit there and say, listen, brother, these are the things I have noticed about you in the last 3 months, and this is not who I know you to be. What's going on? How can I help you? And one of the things that we struggle with, where we are scared to ask that person, are you going to hurt yourself? And that's are you I'm sorry about that. Are you going to hurt yourself, or are you thinking about hurting yourself? And what that allows them to start talking about me, yes, and maybe I'm thinking about it, but it opens up this conversation where you can help them to get the help they need. Maybe you can go with them to the therapist, or go with them to the hospital, or call other friends or family that are important to them to help support them through this crisis.
Right.
So we have to be courageous. I prefer to ask the question and they be pissed off with me, and not to ask the question out and I live with that guilt, because just that question could have been the turning point.
Absolutely.
So I really hope that this message reaches the mass, and it reaches people that look like you and I, that are struggling, and not just black and brown male and female, anybody that can hear us today. I implore them to really think of what mental health means to them, and think of what mental health looks like for the people in their lives, and reach out and get some help, reach out and get some support. And it is important to do this.
It's definitely important to have good mental hygiene. Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow. We said a mouthful today.
Yes.
I want to thank you, and please come back, not only with the book, but please come back and check in with us, because like you said, mental health is important. I would love to have you on the show on a regular basis if you can.
And just drop in and check in. Yes. I think we can do something a little, probably next week, talking about how do we navigate the Christmas blues, or how do we, especially for a segment of our population, a lot of our LGBTQ listeners are separated from their families, and how do they manage experiencing Christmas, or how do you manage going home for Christmas and dealing with the fury and the flurry of questions with your boyfriend, with your girlfriend, with this? How do you manage that anxiety? Because I find a lot of my patients, in my experience, just going home for Christmas is an anxiety provoking experience for them. So it's not something that they're looking forward to. So I think that would be a healthy conversation for us.
I agree. I think so too. I want to thank you again, Shane Mark Tull, clinical psychotherapist, author of The Mental Health Pandemic. Thank you for coming to OneMicNite Talk.
Thank you.
Everybody who's watching this on the live chat, please make sure you type down in the live chat if you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to see more episodes like this, we're on every Tuesday or Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you subscribe to the OneMicNite YouTube channel to watch the episode. We're also available on all audio platforms, OneMicNite Talk. And then skip on over to OneMicNite Podcast with Marcos Luis to find the best interviews. There's also an interview talking more specifically with Shane Mark Tull. This is OneMicNite. Thank you all for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe to OneMicNite. We're out.
All right.
Thank you guys all for joining me for this episode of OneMicNite Talk. And a huge thank you to Shane Mark Tull, clinical psychotherapist and author of the book, The Mental Health Pandemic. If you haven't gotten your copy, please make sure you do. You can pick that up at Amazon. Also, make sure you check the notes down at the bottom of the episode. Click on the new store that I have. It's called Azules EN. The link will be down at the bottom. I have products that will enhance and complement your lifestyle. So please check that out. And thank you for all the watchers here on YouTube live chat and all the new subscribers for stopping in. See you next time on OneMicNite Talk. Marcos Luis.